Now let me open HANA Studio. Right. So by default, it has opened the development perspective. So first, what we need to do in this systems tab, we need to connect to what? HANA database. So let me right click on this database instance, log on, provide the credentials. Right. So it is successfully connected to what? HANA database. If it is successfully connected, then only we'll get this particular folders: catalog, content, provisioning, and security. Yesterday, we understood something about this catalog folder. It contains the predefined schemas and what user defined schemas. We understood that a schema is a container of what? Database objects. What are the database objects that we create? We have to store it inside the schema. So yesterday what we have done, we have created the schema what? Gensoft SQL by using the statement create schema. So without creating the schema, if you open the SQL console and create the objects, those objects get stored inside what? The default schema available for the logged in user. So on behalf of every logged in user, a schema is available here. In this case, the schema name is what? HANA. Okay, it got stored here. So since I want to store it in my own schema, we created the schema by using the statement create schema. And as part of this schema, we have created a table. So we have created some two tables, I believe, EMP1 and EMP2. So here, if you open this, this is EMP1 and this is EMP2. And I think, let me open the definition. How do you open the definition of the table? Right click on the table and say open definition, means the structure of the table. So these are the two columns, EMP number and what? EMP name. And while creating this column, I created this column employee number as what? Not null. So I imposed a not null constraint on the EMP number. What is the purpose of not null constraint? It will not accept null values, but it can accept what? Duplicate values. And we have inserted some data in this table. Let me preview the data. How do you preview the data? Right click on the table and say open data preview. Right, so these are the data inserted, and you can observe here employee number is 2 is repeating. So what is the meaning? Not null column can accept what? Duplicate values, but cannot accept null values. Okay, done. Now let us create one more table. Okay, I will create one more table. Yesterday we have created the table by using what? A SQL statement. We can also create the table by using what? UI. Just like in our normal abap, we create the table by using what? SC11. We'll go to SC11 and we'll provide the minimum settings. Here also, let us create the table by using UI. So how do you create? Same. In whichever schema you want to create. I want to create in Gensoft SQL. So inside this schema, we have the tables here. Right. So I want to create the table using UI. So right click on the table, right click on the table and say new table. Right click on the table and new table. Done. Here it is asking the table name. I'll give the table name as something EMP3. The table name is EMP3. What is the schema? Gensoft SQL. Let the table type is what? Column store table. We have column store, row store, and table type also we have. Just like in ABAP, we have a table type. Table type is nothing but internal table structure created at what? A database level. Here also we have a concept of table type. In order to use this, we require procedures. So when we come to procedures, we'll create this particular table type. So for the timing, let me choose what? Column store. Table type cannot hold the data. Okay, it can only provide the structure. Okay, so template. So column store is the type of the table. Then here in the columns tab, you can create the columns. Let me give the column name as, yeah, I'll give the column name as EMP number. Before I do this, just observe here. My requirement is, 1 second. Yeah, on my desktop, try to understand. On my desktop, there is a file called as EMP data. There is a file EMP data. It's an Excel file. Yeah, this table contains some four columns. It contains some four columns: employee number, EMP name, designation, and what? Department number. There are four columns available. So my requirement is I want to create the table with the four columns. Let us create the table with four columns, and I want to import the data from this particular file to that particular table. Yesterday we have inserted the data into the table by using a SQL statement called as insert. Now I want to import the data from this Excel file and associate with my table. So since this Excel has got some four columns, keeping this Excel in mind, I'll create what? Four columns. So here I can give any column names. Let me give it as something EMP number, SQL data type. So we have different data types here. We have different data types. I'll go for, as of now, what? Integer. Integer. Done. Then what is the next column? I'll give it as employee name. I'll go for same varchar 2. Varchar. I'll give the data type size as something dimension. I'll give it as something 20. Done. Click on this plus symbol. Let us give another column like employee designation. Varchar. I'll give it as something 25. Then another column, department number. Let us give it as what? Integer. We'll be seeing that other data types as and when required. So I'll go for integer. Done. So I created my table structure with what? Four columns. So in order to create this, somewhere here you'll have what? Execute button, right hand corner, F8 button. So let me click on this execute button. Yeah. So at the background, you can see at the background, it has generated the SQL statement, create column table. Good. You can see here the object, the table name is prefixed with what? The schema name. Since I created that in the gens of SQL, it is prefixed with the schema name. With how many columns? Four columns successfully executed. So if you refresh here, right click on the table, left hand side, and say what? Refresh, the table would be created. Done. Okay. So what is my requirement here? This table as of now doesn't have any data. Okay, let me close the other tables. EMP2 I'll close. This EMP2 also I'll close. So this EMP3 has got four columns. As of now it doesn't have any data. Right click on the table. Also open data preview. Yeah, we don't have any data. So what is my requirement here? I need to import the data from our Excel file to this particular table. So very simple navigation. Just to show you that option I'm doing, but generally we don't use. So I'll choose what? Import file, import. Okay, in the same HANA Studio only. Choose the menu file, import. Done. Import. Yeah, you can see here. We have what? SAP HANA content. Okay, in this wizard, I'll choose under SAP HANA content. Choose what? Data from what? Local file. Data from local file. Say next. Yeah. Select the system where you want to import. Select the target system where you would like to import the data. So this is our database instance, HDB. I'll choose next. Done. So it is asking, what it is asking here, define the import properties. Select the CSV, select the CSV or Excel file to upload the data. Microsoft Office 97 or above, select the CSV or Excel file to upload the data. So if you observe here, if I see the properties of this file, right click, if I see the properties, yeah, it is what .xls. It is .xls file. Okay. So here, select the file. It is asking to browse. So I'll click on the browse button. Yeah, it is available on my local machine on the desktop. What is that file name? EMP data. Yeah, this is the file EMP data. Say open. Done. Okay. So EMP data.xls. Acha. If you observe here, I think this table, so this file contains headings also. No? So this first row should not be considered as data. They are what column headings. So I need to ignore that. I need to ignore that. So you can see here, there is a checkbox here. Header row exists. Header row exists. So let me choose this. Header row exists means it will not assume, it will not understand that as data. It will ignore that row. Header row exists, so it will start importing the data. From which line you want to start? Second line. So I'll choose import second line to which row. I can give that also. Source row to target row. I want to import all the data. So let me select the checkbox. Import all data. Yeah, start line is true, end line is nothing. Done. Okay. Yeah, it is asking whether you want to create the new schema, whether you want to create the new schema and give the new table name, or you want to copy to the existing schema and existing table. Okay, so I'll go for what? Yeah, if I choose new here, if I click on the drop down, it is showing me the available, it is showing me the available schemas. Okay, it is showing me the available schemas. What is our schema? Gens of SQL, and you can provide the new table name. Understood? This is all existing schemas only. Okay, we cannot create new schema here. This should be existing schemas. Choose the appropriate schema, but the table name we can create new. Okay, since already the table is also available, I'll go for the radio button existing. Select the table. I'll just click on the button. Yeah, it is showing me all the schemas. What is the schema? Gens of SQL. In this, what is the table? EMP3. Yeah, I'll choose EMP3. I'll say OK. Done. So, gens of SQL dot EMP3. Done. Say next. Good. So you can see manage the table definition. Manage the table definition for new tables and source target column mapping. So you have to just, okay, you have to map it like this. Just you have to map it like this. Okay. You have to just drag and drop to which one you want to map. Once again, it is getting refreshed. Okay. I can drag and drop, or else I think there is a button here. What is this? Mapping menu. Anyhow, left hand side we have 4 columns. Right hand side also, in the table also we have 4 columns. Since we have same number of columns in both source and target, I can go for this mapping menu. If you have different number of columns, and if you want to map this employee number to department number, you have to what? Just drag and drop. Okay. Or else you can just click on this mapping menu. Yeah, one to one or map by name. Map by name is again the column names are different. Na? Here the in Excel the heading names are different. The heading names are different. Here the table column names are different. So I cannot go for map by name. So I'll go for one to one. So my understanding is one to one means left hand side also we have 4, right hand side also 4. It will map one by one, I think. Let me click on this. Understood? Or else you can map it one by one. You can just drag and drop. I'll click on this one by one, one to one. Good. You can see here it has mapped. Good. Employee number is mapped. Done, done, done. Okay. Say what? Next. Yeah. Source file name is emp.xls. Target table name is emp3. Target table schema is gens of SQL. Say finish. Yeah, you can see at the bottom, you can see the log here. Importing the flat file, HDF, HANA database, user is HANA. Completed success, it might be imported successfully. So I believe I need to refresh here. This is my table. I'll just say refresh. Good. I got the data in the respective columns. Okay, so this is a simple option to import the data from the Excel file. Hope it's clear to everyone. So we have created the table. We have created the table by using what? UI also. So we can create the table both by using SQL statement as well as what? By using what? UI. Done. And we have seen how to import it from the Excel file. So yesterday, if you observe this table EMP2, if you see the definition, yeah, I created this. One second. Yeah, I created this table with a not null constraint. With a not null constraint on what? This employee number column. Okay. Now let me go for primary key. Let us understand the difference between not null constraint and a primary key constraint. Okay, one second. Let me close all these things. So I want to open the what? SQL console. I want to open the SQL console. When you are creating the table, we have to give the data types. I didn't get your point. Whenever we create the table, either by using UI or by using SQL statement, for every column, we have to mention the data type. Whatever the data type we gave, it will consider that only. If I give integer, it will take integer. Suppose yesterday or today, we have created this table EMP3 just now. If I open the definition, I selected the data type now here. I gave it as what? Integer, varchar. So we have to give it manually. We need to give it manually. In Excel, we don't have any data type. Okay. First of all, before we want to upload the data, we have to understand the Excel file. Okay. What is our understanding? My Excel has got what? 4 columns. What are the 4 columns? Employee number, employee name, designation and department number. By looking at that file, I understand that employee number and department number are what? Numeric values, and employee name designation are what? It is only what? Character. So keeping that file in mind, I created the table columns with the appropriate data type. Just like if you take a normal abap BDC, blindly we cannot upload the data into the internal table. First of all, you have to understand the format of the legacy system. What data is there in the file? How many columns are there in the file? What is the delimiter inside the file? What kind of data type is there in the file? So with that knowledge only, we'll declare the internal table. Here also, I analyze the Excel file. Based on that only, I created the table with these 4 columns and the corresponding data types. If I give integer, it can store only numbers. If I give varchar is capable of holding both numbers as well as what? Characters. Sandeep, I hope it's clear. Yeah. So my next requirement is I want to create a table with a primary key constraint. Okay, let us understand the difference between not null and what? Primary key constraint. Acha, yesterday, before, whenever we are creating the table, I believe we gave the syntax like this. What is that? Create table. Okay, create table, and we are prefixing the table name with what? Our schema name, gens of SQL dot, what is that? EMP1. So we are prefixing our table name with the schema name. If I don't prefix, what happens? If I don't prefix, this table is getting created in the logged in user schema, that is inside the hana schema, but I want it in what? Gens of SQL. So that's the reason we are qualifying, we say qualifying or prefixing. We are qualifying the object name with what? Schema name, so that this object gets stored in our schema only. Now here what I want, I don't want to every time, I don't want to what? Prefix this particular object name with the schema name. So see the adjustment here. Observe this. First of all, let me open the SQL console. So see here, how do you open the SQL console? Right click on the catalog, say what? Open SQL console. Yeah, you can see here, this SQL console is open on behalf of which schema here? hana schema. right? So what are the objects we create? It gets stored in the hana schema. Okay, that's the reason we are prefixing the object name with schema name. Suppose let me open another session. This is my Gensoft SQL schema. I'll right click on this. I'll say open SQL console. Understood? I'm right click on the Gensoft SQL. I'll say open SQL console. Done. It has opened what? It has opened another session, but you can see here. Observe this. In case of the first one, it is not showing any current schema. Means it is a schema related to what? The logged in user. But if you see the second session, here it is clearly showing what? Current schema is what? Gensoft SQL. So since this session is open for the current schema, what I can do, I can directly create the objects without prefixing with what? Schema name. I repeat once again. I'll close these things. So there are two ways I can open the SQL console. What is that? As part of the catalog, I can right click. I can say open SQL console, or I can just choose the catalog. Here we have a button what? Open SQL console. So when I click on this, it has opened the SQL console. So this SQL console is opened on behalf of what? Logged in user schema. What is the logged in user name? hana. So obviously, what is the schema name? hana only. Na? So hana. So what are the objects we create? And if you don't prefix those database objects with the schema name, that object gets stored in what? hana schema. If you want to store that object in a specific schema, what is the recommendation? We have to qualify, we have to prefix that particular object name with the schema name. Yesterday we have done that. Otherwise, what I can do, directly I can open what? Right click on your appropriate schema and say what? Open SQL console. So it has opened the SQL console for which schema? Gensoft SQL. So here I need not prefix. If I create any table or any database object, if you don't prefix, the what? Schema name, what happens? Those objects get stored in the current schema. What is that? Gensoft SQL. Otherwise also, suppose, assume that I'll open in a normal way. I'll right click on the catalog. I'll also open SQL console. So we understand that this is the session related to which schema? hana schema. So what I can do here, see, but what is my requirement? What are the objects I create in this schema? What are the objects I create in this schema? They are created on behalf of, what are the objects I created in this session? I want those objects to be created as part of which schema? Gensoft SQL. So what you have to do, every time you have to prefix with what? Schema name. Instead of that, what you can do is, I'll use a statement called a set schema. Set schema, what is that? Gensoft SQL. So even though you opened the session on behalf of hana schema, I want the objects to be created as part of a specific schema. So set that session for that particular schema. How do we do it? Set schema. Set schema Gensoft SQL. So just select this. Make an habit to select the statement. So here, even if I don't select, no problem, because my session contains only one statement, so it doesn't matter. So I'll try to click on this execute button. Yeah, good. You can see here at the bottom, it has created the schema. It has set the schema, not created. It has set the schema for the current session. What is that schema? Gensoft SQL. So what I can do now, I need not prefix. So let me create the table. Already how many tables are there? 3 tables. Okay, so I'll say create table. I'll give the table name as EMP4. Yesterday what we have done? We have prefixed with what? The schema name. Here I need not do. Already because we have set the schema for that particular session. So I'll say directly set create table EMP4. Let me create the columns. I'll give the column name as EMP number. I'll give it as what? Int or integer, doesn't matter, integer. Let me give it as what? Primary key. Yesterday we have used what? Not null, primary key. I'll give another column employee number. Let me give it as something varchar of something 20. Varchar of 20, close the table definition. Select your block, execute this. Oh, what happened? Sorry, I'm sorry. Good. I got an error here. See, what is that error? Create table so SQL syntax error line 4 column 20. Line 4 means you have selected this block now. In this block, what is the line 4? For employee name. Employee name. So here after closing the parenthesis, I give what? Semicolon. Incorrect syntax near this one. Okay. So let me remove the semicolon. For the last column, we should not give any comma, we should not give any semicolon. Just leave it blank. Now re-execute. Select the block F8. Yeah, the table got created. So if I refresh, the table got created. Let me open the definition. Right click on the table and say open definition. Here you can see EMP number. Good. You can see here primary key again. So the key column is selected. One thing you have to observe, if I open the yesterday's table EMP2, I give only not null constraint. If I open the definition of that, only the not null column is selected. But whereas for EMP4, I created that employee number as primary key. So if you see the definition, both key as well as not null is what? Selected. So what is the meaning? What is the meaning? Primary key is a combination of what? Primary key is a combination of not null and what? Unique constraint. We'll understand that shortly. So let me just close this. Done. So what is my agenda now? I want to insert the data inside this particular table. So we have two columns. Let me insert. Insert into, what is the table name? EMP4 values. I'll give the employee number something 1 and something Kiran. Some data. Done. So these are my 5 records I'm trying to insert. Let me select those 5 statements. I'll execute. It got created. So if you preview the data, I can right click, I can say what? Open data preview. Anyhow, we know this. Otherwise, what I can do, I can say, all of us know this, select star from, select star indicates what? All the columns. What is the table name? EMP4. So you can observe here. Here also I have not prefixed the schema name. Here also I have not prefixed the schema name. Here also I have not the prefix the schema name. So make an habit. The moment you open the SQL console, if you open the SQL console for your schema, fine, no problem. In case if you open the SQL console in a general way, then you set the schema explicitly by using what? Set schema. So that every time I need to prefix the object name with the schema name. Right. So select start from EMP4. When I execute, I got the data. Okay, I got some 5 records. Okay, so now what I'll do, I'll try to insert duplicate value. Employee number is what? Primary key. Primary key is a combination of unique constraint and what? Not null constraint. Done. Insert into EMP4. I'll give values 4 and I'll give it as something Kiran 44. Something. Okay. Employee number is what? Same. Employee name is different. When I try to execute, I should get an error. Let us understand that error. When I say F8, good. What is the error I got? Insert into EMP4. So in the bottom you can see. Okay, unique constraint violated. Unique constraint violated because primary key is a combination of what? Unique and what? Not null constraint. Okay, done. Now I'll try to insert. Try to understand. I'll try to insert data only for employee name. How do we insert the data for specific columns? For whichever column you want to maintain the data, in the parenthesis, you mention that column name. So I'll give it as what? Employee name, values, for values Kiran 44. So this also should give me an error. This also should give me an error. Why? Because primary key is the combination of what? Unique constraint and not null. Not null means what? Cannot accept null values. I am trying to insert null value for employee number. Means I am not maintaining the data for employee number. Nothing but null value I am trying to insert. So this also should give me an error. Let's see that. When I say fit, good. I got an error. Insert into EMP4 so and so cannot insert null or update to null for what? Employee number. So this is the concept of primary key. Combination of unique and what? Not null constraint. Okay, my requirement is I want to remove that primary key. I want to remove that particular primary key. Okay, so can anyone tell me how to do that? Already the table is there. I created the employee number as primary key and I maintained some data. Around 5 records are there in the table. So now my requirement is I want to what? Remove that particular constraint. I want to remove that primary key constraint. So can anyone tell me what should be the approach? Yes, anyone. Alter table name, drop primary key. Good. Okay. So first of all, what I'll do is I need to understand if you want to drop a constraint, I need to get the constraint name. Okay. If you give alter table name drop primary key, fine, it will drop. But if you want to drop some other constraint, suppose I want to drop going forward foreign key constraint, or I want to drop only not null constraint. Understood? So if you want to drop that, we need to know the constraint name. So here, when I am giving the constraint here, primary key, this syntax doesn't allow me, to provide the constraint name. Okay, constraint is what? Primary key. Every constraint internally will have a name. So here, SAP itself will propose the constraint name. So how do we know that constraint name on a table means? See, if you go to this, as I told, we have some predefined schemas. One of the predefined standard schema is what? Sys. Sys. We have a schema called as sys schema. Now, as part of this schema, we have views here, views. So if I expand this, there are many views here. One of the important view is, let me right click, I'll say filters. Yeah, already it is there. Okay. Or I'll just say filters. I'll search for what? Constraints. Constraints. Done. You can see here it is showing me all the views. It is showing me all the views which contains a word what? Constraints. Understood? How do you filter? Right click and you can give what? Filters. Whatever filter condition you want to give, you can give. I gave it as constraint. It is showing that. Okay. So one of the important view is constraints. Let me open the definition of this. If I right click on this, okay, if I right click on this, open definition, done. It has opened the definition here, sys.constraints. Good. Okay, it is a view name. It is a view name available in the schema what sys, and you can see create statement tab here at the background. At the background, something is there here. We will not worry about that. Done. So in the columns here, some of the important columns are what? Schema underscore name, table underscore name. Understood? Schema underscore name, table underscore name, constraint underscore name, column underscore name. So there are some important columns here. Schema underscore name, table underscore name, column underscore name, constraint underscore name. So keeping this view in mind, what I'll do is let me try to query. So I'll go back to my SQL console. Observe here. So what is my agenda here? I want to drop the primary key constraint on my table. So in order to drop any constraint, not only primary key, in order to drop any constraint, we need to know the constraint name. So how do we, since this syntax doesn't allow us to propose our own constraint name, SAP itself might have proposed the constraint name. So where we can check the constraints defined on the table, we have a system view. We have a standard view called as constraints, which is part of what sys schema. So let me say here, select star from, let me go for all the columns, select star from, select star from what? Constraints, select star from constraints, select star from constraints, where what are some of the columns here? Schema underscore name, table underscore name. So here I'll say, if I leave it like this, the problem is what? It will show the constraints available across what? All the tables across all the schemas. So you'll have huge list. That's the reason to filter that. I'll give a where condition where schema underscore name equal to what is our schema? Gens of SQL. Na? So I'll give gens of SQL done. And what is the other column? Table underscore name. Yeah, table underscore name. So and table underscore name equal to 1 second. And a table underscore name equal to what is the table name? EMP4. EMP4. That's all. Select star from sys.constraints where schema underscore name equal to gens of SQL and table underscore name equal to EMP4. Let me query for this. F8. Done. So you can see here the schema name is gens of SQL. The table name is EMP4. Column name is what? EMP number. Good. Column name is EMP number. And you can see here the constraint name. The constraint name is proposed by what? The SAP itself. What is that? Underscore sys underscore tree underscore cs underscore hash so on so on so. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is whenever we define the constraint on any column, any table column, and if you don't provide the constraint name, SAP itself will provide the constraint name. Okay. And in order to drop that constraint, in order to disable that constraint, or in order to enable that constraint, I need to know the constraint name. So that we can collect by querying it from a system view called as what? Constraint. So I want to, you can see here, is the primary key true? Is the unique key true? Obviously, the primary key is a combination of unique and what? Not null. So I need to copy this. So if I double click on this, not coming, yeah, double click on that. I'll just copy this for my reference, Control C. Yeah, now what I'll do, understood, we have result tab here, we have SQL. So what is my requirement now? I want to drop that constraint. So how do you drop? Alter table. I'm using alter statement now. Alter table, what is the table name? EMP4. EMP4 drop constraint, drop, sorry, drop constraint, constraint name, drop constraint name, you have to give it in double quotes. Yeah, drop constraint, that's all. Yeah, let's see now. I'll say F8. Good. Successfully alter table successfully executed. So it might have what? Altered the table. Let me again query for this. So I can directly execute here only. I can directly select this. I can execute. But since I'm going to send it in the notes, I'm writing that statement once again. Right. So if I query now, the constraint should not be available because you have deleted that particular constraint. So I'll say fit. Good. Now I don't have any constraints defined on my table. So this is the way to drop the constraint. So your exercise is check how to disable the constraint. Means drop will permanently delete the constraint. Now I don't want that. I don't want to temporarily suspend the primary key. So check the syntax and let me know. Okay, alter, not now, later on. Okay, alter table name. Okay, so on so statement for disabling the constraint. Alter table name. I use drop. So your agenda is what? How to disable it, how to enable it. Okay, check the syntax. Done. So now there are no constraints. Now can I insert duplicate value? Yes, I can insert the duplicate value. Let me try to insert. I'm trying to insert 4 here. Okay, it should accept because I don't have any primary key. So when I say fit, done, it has accepted might be. If I refresh, yes, I got 4 and what? Kiran, 44. 4 and Kiran, 44. Okay, I'll try to insert null value. Null value also it should accept. Control C. Okay, employee name. I'll give it as something Kiran 55. I'm not providing the data for employee number. So when I say fit, oh, what happened? Oh, good point, good point. Good. What happens here? Insert into EMP4, ename, value so and so. What is saying here? cannot insert null or update to null. So what is the understanding is this statement has deleted only the primary key constraint, in the sense it has deleted only the unique constraint. It has deleted only the unique constraint, but it has not deleted what? Not null. Still it is available. See, cannot insert null or update to null for what? Employee number. Let me check in the definition. I'll refresh this. As of now, both are selected. I'll refresh. Good, good. You can see here. What happened? It has removed only the key here. It has not removed the null. So understanding is what? See, it is not our hands. The statement has been designed like that. When I drop like this, it is only dropping the unique constraint feature of the primary key. It is not dropping the entire not null. Actually, primary key the combination of what? Unique plus what? Not null. Whenever we insert the primary key, whenever we impose the primary key, it will impose both unique and what? Not null. But this statement is removing only what? Unique constraint feature, not the what? Not the not null constraint. Okay. Now what I'll do is we are able to insert the duplicate values. Okay. Now the change I'll do is okay. So what is the data in my table? This is the data. Okay. Now focus here. Here you can observe it has removed only what? Unique key constraint, but not null. Okay. We'll address that later on in the coming this thing. Yeah. So here if you see, we have the duplicate employee number. 4 is repeating now. Can I impose primary key constraint now? I should not be able to impose primary key constraint now because already there are duplicate values, so it is violating the rule. So already the table is available. Now at later point of time, I have decided to impose a primary key constraint. So how do we do it? Very simple. See this. Alter table. Let me give it in uppercase. Alter table. What is the table name? What is the table name? EMP4. Alter table name EMP4. For dropping the constraint, we are using drop constraint. So I'll say what? Add constraint. Add constraint. Okay. So what is the advantage of this syntax is the developer can give what? His own constraint name, which is easy to remember. Since it is a user defined name, we can give in our own format. But if you see the earlier case, it is difficult to remember the constraint name. So what I'll do here, alter table name, add constraint. What shall I give? EMP number. Na? Okay, so I'll give it as something EMP number underscore primary key. So I'm just giving my user defined name, meaningful name. By looking at the constraint name, I can understand the constraint type. Okay, alter table name, add constraint so and so. Yeah, what you want to add? What type of constraint you want to add? Primary key. On which column you want to add employee number. So in the parenthesis, give what? Employee number. That's all. Let me check. Alter table name. Add constraint name. Primary key employee number. Done. Let me execute this. It should not allow me to impose the primary key constraint now because already we have the duplicate entries. Since we are violating the rule, it should not allow me to add the constraints. I'll select this. I'll say fit. Good. I got an error. What is that? Alter table so and so, add constraint so and so. Cannot create unique index. Cannot create unique index. Duplicate key found. Several documents with the same ID exist in the index so and so. Content not unique. Cannot define what? Unique constraint. Good. So what is that here? Already the duplicate where data is. That's why I'm unable to impose the primary key. So what I have to do now? Let me delete the duplicate entry so that I can impose that. Okay, so let me delete it. How to delete? I'll delete it by using the SQL statement. So I'll say delete from what? EMP4 where what? Employee number equal to 4. So if I do like this, it will delete both the records wherever the employee number is 4. I don't want to delete both the records. I want to delete only this record. So I'll compare with what? Employee name, Kiran 44. Employee name is what? Kiran 44. So I'll say where employee name equal to Kiran 44. Done. Let me try to execute this. So we are trying to understand the delete syntax. F8. Now what happened? Delete from table name where ename equal to Kiran 44.
So here the delete R is there.
Yeah,
Delete
yeah,
R.
I'm sorry, spelling mistake, yeah, right? So I'll just select this F8, then it got deleted. So if you see the table, if I refresh, then that record got deleted. Now we don't have any duplicate entries. I should be able to impose the primary key. Okay, so let me recopy this. I can directly execute, but you practice in the same sequence whatever I send in the notes. Alter table, table name, so on so. Okay, so when I execute, yes, it has altered the table. Let me query for the constraint.
Sridhar, can you follow the comments also?
No, that comments anyhow I'll give it in the notes, no? In the yesterday's notes, for every statement I gave the description.
Okay.
Have you received the material yesterday?
Yeah. Today morning only we received.
No, no, no. Yesterday only I sent. Yesterday morning around 9 o'clock only I sent. Not recording, I'm saying. Material.
Okay.
I'm opening yesterday's one.
Recording
Yeah,
we
they
have
only I've
received.
sent. Recording yesterday night I've shared. Material I have shared it yesterday morning only, around 10 o'clock. So you can see here, I gave a detailed description. So you will not worry about this. After every statement, I gave a description here, just for your reference.
But even the how to maintain the comments lines in
Yeah,
that.
yeah, we'll see. Again, we have different. We have a statement called as comment. Okay, so we'll see that. Right. So let me go back. Yeah, select what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to query for the constraint. So when I execute, I can see now. I got this employee number. What is this constraint name? EMB number underscore primary key. Done. So it will define the primary key constraint. Done. Can I now? What is your agenda? How to disable the constraint? How to enable the constraint? So I'll give a clue here. For dropping the constraint or adding the constraint, I'm saying alter table, table name, add constraint. Similarly, you check for a syntax alter table, table name. What is that? Disable constraint, constraint name, enable constraint, constraint name. Okay, done. Now what I'll do is just observe here. So if I drop this constraint, it is dropping only the unique constraint feature. How to drop the not null will understand going forward, because not null we have to what the syntax will be different. We'll see that. Now here I created the table em before. Now what I want is based on the existing table I want to create a new table. Okay, based on the existing table I want to create a new table. So here the thing is, this emp4 has got some data now. emp4 has got how many records? 5 records. Does it have any constraint? Where is that? Yeah, here. Yes, it also contains what? Constraint. What is that constraint? Primary key constraint. So what is my requirement now? I want to create a new table based on the existing table. So I want to check whether data is copied, whether the constraints are copied, all those things I want to check. So first of all, how do you create? See this. Based on the existing table, I want to create a new table. So I'll say create column table. I'll go for column table. 1 second, please. Let me remove this. So initially I created this table emp4 na. So if you see the definition of the table, yeah, what type of table it has created here? See, It has created what? Columns to table. So remember that. Now I'll create another table based on the existing table. I'll say create table or create column table. Create column table. What is the table name? Shall I give EMP4 now? EMP5. Create column table EMP5 like what is the existing table? EMP4. So I'm using what operator? Like operator. There are multiple ways of creating a new table based on the existing table. As of now, I'm using what? Like operator. Create column table EMP5 like EMP4. Done. Let me check. I'll say F8. It might have created. So if you see this under your schema, if I refresh, right click and say refresh, yeah, EMP5. If you open the definition, done. You can see EMP5 is created. It is also created as column store, and you can see here it has created that constraint also. Let me check the data. I'll say select star from what? EMP5. Select star from EMP5. When I execute, what happened? Data is not copied. So it is copying only the structure. Let me check whether constraints I can see. In the definition we are able to see. Let me check it here. Select star from what? Sys dot constraints where schema name equal to so and so. Table name equal to what? EMP5. EMP5. Let me query for this. Done. Okay, so what happened here? This syntax is allowing me to copy the definition. Definition means what? The column names as it is, the constraints as it is, but not the data, not the data. So what is my requirement now? I want to create the table based on the existing table with the data. So how do we do it? See this. Create column table. Let me go for a new table. Create column table. I'll give it as what? EMP6. EMP6. Like what? EMP4. Here I'll use the addition what? With the data. With the data. Okay, let me check. F8 table might have been created. So if I refresh, done. EMP6 is created. So if I query for the constraints, what is the table name? EMP6. Constraints are copied anyhow. In the earlier case also it got copied. Let me query for the data. Select star from what? EMP6. Done. Let me execute this. F8. Done. What happened here? It has copied the data also. Understood. So there are multiple ways of creating a new table based on the existing table. As of now, I'm using what? Like operator. I'm using the like operator. Okay. Similarly, so we have seen insert statement, select statement, alter statement for dropping the constraint and for adding the constraint. Now delete also we have seen one syntax. Let me go for update. Okay. So I want to update a particular record. Yeah. See this. What shall I update? Employee 6 only. I want to update in this table. Suppose employee number 5 is there. For this employee number 5, okay, I want to update what employee name. Kiran 5 is there. I want to update to Kiran 55. So how do we do it? Very simple. Most of you might be aware of that. So I'll say update. I'll use a DML statement called as update. What is that? Update table name is what? EMP6. Update EMP6. Set what? Ename equal to set ename equal to, I'll take Kiran 55. So if I leave it like this, what happens? It will update all the records of the employee. It will set the employee names of all the employees to what? Kiran 55. Let me check. Update so and so. Yeah, F8. It might have updated. Okay. If you refresh this, if I query or directly I can refresh here. No? Not there. Okay. Control C. Right. When I execute, what happened? All the names are changed to what? Kiran 55. So what is the understanding? If you don't give the where class, If you don't give a where class in the update statement, it will update all the records. Now I want to update a particular record, like employee number 3 is there. Employee name, I want to change it to 33. 33. So what is a simple change? Employee name equal to something 33. Once again, it got stuck. 33. Here I need to give a where class, where emp number equal to what? 3. That's all. So when I execute, when I say F8, yes, it might have updated. Let me query the data once again. Right, so you can see employee number 3, employee name got changed to what? Kiran 33. Kiran 33. Okay, so we have seen some syntaxes related to what to create table. Okay, what else we have seen? Alter table. In the again, alter again comes in many forms. We have used only few things, like we have seen only how to drop the constraint and how to add the constraint. Drop the constraint and add the constraint. Your exercise is check for the syntax, how to disable the constraint, how to enable the constraint. Yeah, see, first of all, Sandeep, we should never bother about the position of the record, because table will contain what? Lakhs of records. Table will contain lakhs of records. We cannot control the positions. Your agenda is we need to check whether data is modified or not. Whether it sits in the first record, whether it sits in the last record, we are not aware of that. We are not concerned about that. Okay, so might be it is following some algorithm to interchange the positions, might be ASCII values kind of thing, or whatever the last record updated, it might get at the last. So we need not worry about that. The worry should be whether the data is updated or not. Okay, not only here, you take any databases, we cannot control the position of the record in the table. We will never have a requirement to control the position of the record in the table. That's the reason what we will do. If you want to what take care of the sorting, we'll pull the required data into the internal table. We'll do the sorting. Na? So at the application layer level, we can do whatever you want. But at the database level, we do not worry about the position of the record. Okay. So we have seen alter, drop constraint, add constraint, and what else we have seen? Insert. We have seen how to insert the record, how to insert the entire record. We have seen how to maintain the data. What for specific columns in the parentheses, we have to give that specific columns. Okay. Then we have seen the syntax for delete. We have seen the syntax for what update, and we have seen how to upload the data from what Excel file. Okay, and we have seen the statement what create schema and what such. These are all very basic things. Okay, very basic things. So tomorrow what we'll do is we'll try to and we have seen how to create a table based on the existing table using like operator with data and without data. If I don't use the addition with the data, what is happening? Only the only the skeleton, only the structure template is copied without any data. If you want to copy the data, we have to use with data. So as of now, what is the operator I'm using? Like operator. Tomorrow, there we'll discuss another way of creating the tables based on existing tables. And one more point we understood is a table can be created either by using UI or by using what SQL statement. So I believe I told in the yesterday's class or previous to that, there are some database objects. All these are called as what database objects. There are some database objects which we can create both by using SQL statement as well as by using what UI. There are some what database objects which can be created only by using SQL statement, like schema. Schema is also what a database object. I cannot create the schema using what UI. I repeat, I cannot create the schema using UI. We have to create it only using what SQL statement. How do you create it? Create schema, schema name. We cannot create that schema using UI. Like that, going forward, we'll come across some database objects which we cannot create using what? UI. That's the reason it is always better we know the SQL statement manually also, how to use it manually. And here I use a simple select statements. Tomorrow onwards, I'll use subqueries. Okay, so Based on that, we'll see how to read the data from what multiple tables using joins, how many types of joins are there. If you take a normal abap context, we have only two types of join. I think what are they? Inner join and what? Left outer join. Here we have many types of joins. We'll be discussing all those things. Done? And how to give comment also? Going forward, we have a statement called as comment. Okay, we'll see that also. Understood? So any questions, please ask me. Any questions for today, please ask. So yesterday someone asked me, can we retain these statements? Yes, you have to save it. Suppose here if I close this, I'm just closing this editors. This is my SQL console. I'll try to close this. When I try to close this, it is asking so and so is modified, save the changes. Yes, so we can save this for what? Future reference. It will save it as .sql. The extension would be .sql. Like this we can save it. So I want to save it in Word file, so that's the reason. I have shared with everyone, Ashutosh. You have not received. 14th June recording, did I share with everyone?
Sir, I didn't get a second video.
Second, okay. Okay, fine. Might be the list got filtered on that day. Fine, no problem. I'll share it today. Who else has not got? Ashutosh, Ashoka. Second
Ashok.
is Ashoka. Okay. I'll share it today. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Shall then, so I'll wind off. So practice this. Pawan, I think, Pawan, are you the reference of what Shankar? Shiva Shankar? I think,
Yes, Sridhar, you're right.
yeah, okay. Fine.
Sridhar,
And
can we have your email ID so that we
Sorry?
can communicate? Can we have your email ID?
Daily I am sending the meeting IDs and material. No? That is my mail ID. Hello? Rambabu, daily I am sending the meeting ID, material, recordings. No? That is my mail ID. Yahoo. Sridhar underscore Sunkari at yahoo.com.
Okay, fine. That's it.
Yeah.
Sir,
If you have
shared
any
the vendor
queries,
details yesterday,
send it
right?
to that only. Sharon,
Yeah,
sorry?
yesterday.
And you have shared the vendor details yesterday, right? On hand check the email
No.
yesterday.
I forgot. I forgot, Sharon. I'll share it today. I have not
Oh,
shared it
okay.
with anyone. I'll share
Okay.
it today. By afternoon, I'll share.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Rambabu, you are saying something?
Yesterday I was trying to create table, but I could not. So I just
Hmm.
I searched for your video, but
Acha.
unfortunately I
Okay,
have
okay.
taken server also.
Okay, fine. This is my mail ID. Whatever the meeting IDs you are getting, you can
Uh,
see when you send any mail for queries, na, send it in detail because na, just one or two sentences I may not understand. Send the screenshot, okay, so that it will be detail for me. Okay.
fine.
Yeah. Shall I then? Shall wind off. We'll continue tomorrow.